when you have a type 1 diabetic, before they ever discovered insulin, these are the patients who would come into the doctor and they were extremely emaciated. There was no fat on their bones because, again, when your insulin levels are high, you store fat. When your insulin levels are low, you burn fat. So obviously in type 1 diabetics, their pancreas doesn't produce any insulin whatsoever. So their insulin levels are lower than low. They're non-existent. So all they can do is burn their own fat. So back before 1921, before insulin was discovered, that's how patients with type 1 diabetes would show up. And most patients back then, there weren't very many type 2 diabetics at all back then. It's mostly type 1 diabetics. These patients would show up, they'd have extremely high blood glucose, but their insulin levels were zero. So since their insulin levels were low, even though they had all this glucose in their blood, they couldn't do anything with it. So all they could do is burn their own fat. So depending on how much fat they had on board when they end up getting type 1 diabetes, that's going to determine how long they can go before they become so skinny, so emaciated, so weak